again, and thank you, those of you.
I think I see some more friends coming in the hallway. We're going to give them just a second. Welcome! Welcome! Yeah. Oh, we have so many friends coming. And coming so nicely with buddies. Thank you for being such helpers. Hi. Welcome. It's okay. Good morning, friends. I'm glad you're all here. I have had a song stuck in my head. Let me know if you know the song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it. You know it. You gonna sing it with me? Awesome. All right, let's sing this song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. What does it mean to let your light shine? Okay, just let God see it and not. Okay, so if I'm supposed to let God see my light, do I hold up my cell phone? Like I'm at a concert. I just opened up a text. That is not what was supposed to happen. Do I just hold up my phone and like, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine? No, okay. Do I get one of the candles off the altar?
Yep.
And come hold over here. This little light of mine, I'm gonna.
Yes.
I would have just let Miss Dawn on fire. That would have been bad. Okay, so we're supposed to let Jesus know. Okay, so to be a light, we are shining God's love. So we are showing God's love to other people when we shine our light. Why do we not want to put it in the bucket? It would set the bucket on fire and no one would see it. Do you see this light over here? We are so excited to be up here. We are shining light. And you guys, your smiles are shining lights. It's just so exciting. We are going to talk about our friend, Miss Dianthe. She's hiding back here behind. Do you guys know what she's behind? The organ. It's kind of like a piano, but like 3 times more complicated. There's like extra keys, and she's got to do things with her feet, and there are buttons that I don't understand, and stoppers. And apparently it's digital. I learned that during first service. It is complicated back there. And she is playing beautiful music for us. And that is her way of shining her light. Now, what happens when someone shines a light in a dark room? Do you run away from the light? No. No, you go towards it. And if you have a light, you share it. And most of the time, hopefully you eventually find a light switch. And you turn on the light, right? Okay, good point. So when there's one light, light tends to grow. And if we had a candle, right, the light grows. If you're at a campfire, maybe it starts small and it gets bigger. Oh no, we're not going to set anybody on fire. That's not the kind of light we're talking about. So when we have our light and we shine it, so that's the way of showing God's love, because we can't contain it. We have to sing, and we have to dance, and we have to smile, and we have to love others. We share God's love and other people see God. Miss Dianthe has done the same thing. So I want you to turn around and face everybody out there. I'm going to ask them some questions. You guys normally get the questions. They're getting the questions. I want you to guess how many hands get raised up. So if Miss Dianthe played at your wedding, could you raise your hand? How many hands do you think are out there? More than 5. Okay. If Miss Dianthe ever played for a solo you sang, raise your hand. All right. 2? I think there's more than 2. So we're somewhere around 7. Okay. If Miss Dianthe was ever the accompanist for your choir, raise your hand. Oh, we got bigger. If Miss Dianthe ever played in worship when someone you loved was confirmed or baptized, raise your hand. Oh, we're getting fuller. If Miss Dianthe ever helped you celebrate the life of a loved one. Okay. If Miss Dianthe ever played handbells with you. Okay. If Miss Dianthe ever played something meaningful while you were in worship. Oh my gosh, how many hands do you think that is? 65. Okay. And my guess is that outside of these 65 people, there are probably more who couldn't be here today, and more who were at first service, who, because Miss Dianthe plays that super complicated, extra fancy piano organ, they have gotten to see God. And so that's what shining our light is. It is sharing our light, our talent, our gifts that God has given us, so that other people can see God through us. Miss Lene is going to come say some amazing things on behalf of all of us for Miss Dianthe in just a second. And she wants us to recognize that Miss Dianthe is a light through a candle. So one of my acolytes, Levi, can you get and light that candle right there? Okay? This candle helps us remember that Miss Dianthe is sharing her light, and that we're going to learn from her and share our light. Because maybe someday, something we do will touch 65 people. You think 600 might be closer? I think you're probably right. All right, so we're going to remember to be like Miss Dianthe and share our light. Will you guys pray with me? Okay, join me in an attitude of prayer, prayer position. I've got a wonderful prayer leader. God, help us to remember that we can shine your light, and that there are amazing examples among us about how to shine your light. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for
Share some reflections about Dianthe in this day.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Today is a special day. We have all gathered here today in this beautiful sanctuary to celebrate and to give thanks for the 50-plus years of service Dianthe Cable has given to First United Methodist Church. From the banners, to the altar flowers, to the reception flowers on each table, the hymns, the scriptures, the liturgy, the children's message, and the choir's anthem were all chosen to honor you. This morning, I also want to thank another special lady, Mary Lou Detweiler. Mary Lou, thank you for listening to that still small voice, saying that we need to do something special for Dianthe and acknowledge all that she has done for us. Thank you for speaking up and telling your son Pete. I know that Pete said to me, my mother doesn't ask for much, but when she does, we do whatever she asks. So thank you, Pete, for letting your mother's voice be heard. Because of those two, this is happening today. Dianthe, when I ask people to describe you, these are some of the words they use. Gracious, lovely, genuine, caring. This word was specifically chosen because of the hundreds and hundreds of cards that you have sent over the years, thanking people for sharing special music or showing her appreciation for something they did in worship. Adventurous. Dude ranch trips out west. Cowboy boots with rhinestones, need I say more? Classy. Janice Loft remembers Dianthe as her school teacher, always wearing high heels. And we love that about you, and that you still wear such gorgeous high-heeled shoes. A sense of humor. A beautiful smile. A smile that makes you feel welcome, loved, and special. Humble. Loyal. We all had the privilege of witnessing your love and loyalty to your husband, Bill. I will never forget how you cared for him, visiting him every day, twice a day, to feed him, to sit with him, and to love him. Poised, fierce, talented, and generous. In Matthew 25, verse 23, we hear, "The Master said, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant.' You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Your talents and generosity have spilled over into our community and is a reflection by the many service-oriented clubs that you are a member of, Dianthe. Spiritual. Rock. We have all seen pastors, staff, church members come and go from here, but you have been our rock. In fact, the last word on the list describing you is rock star. We appreciate and will never forget the sacrifices you have made. Every Saturday morning rehearsing, every Sunday morning in worship for 2 services, meetings with soloists when it worked for them, accompanying choirs and cantatas, and attending meetings. Your faithfulness and devotion to all of us and to those in our community will never be forgotten. Dianthe, you have led each of us in worship on Sunday mornings, on Christmas Eve, during the quiet times of Lent, and the celebration of Easter Sundays. Mother's Day and Father's Day, through your music, Dianthe, you have given us time to cry tears of joy and happiness as we celebrated marriages and as we have watched our children being baptized and confirmed. Through your music, you have given us time to cry tears of sorrow and grief as we have mourned the loss of a wife, a husband, mother, father, grandparent, sister, brother, child, and a baby. Through your music, we have sang hymns and spiritual songs that has allowed us to praise and glorify God. As you were playing, we have lit candles and were given the precious time to remember those who are not with us anymore. As you were playing, we have taken communion, and then we have knelt at this very rail. As you were playing, filling this very sanctuary with beautiful music, you have allowed each one of us time to let the tears roll down our faces as we have begged God for understanding, for answers, for peace, for healing, for comfort, and for wholeness. In Isaiah 6, verse 8, we hear these words, "Then I heard the Lord asking, whom should I send as a messenger to these people? Who will go for us?" And Dianthe said, "Here I am, send me." Did you know as a teenager that God was sending you as his messenger? Did you know that you would faithfully follow that calling for over 50 years? Did you have any idea that through your gift of music, how many lives you would touch? Dianthe, we thank you for choosing to be a vessel and sharing your gift of music with us. Thank you for choosing to be his messenger. In the many ways that you have blessed each of us over the years, today we want to bless you and shower you with our love and appreciation. We have 3 gifts for you this morning. The first gift is a candle. We chose this gift because it represents the light that you have brought to so many lives. The second gift is a pen, and it was made with love by Richard Ryan-Smith. The beautifully crafted wooden pen is at the guest book. We know that this very pen will be used to continue writing notes of thanks and appreciation to others. And the third gift is a box, and it was made with love by John O'Brien. Pastor Scott, would you get that box? And Dianthe, would you please come forward? The sides of the box represent the keys of the piano and the organ. The top is a beautiful mosaic. Each different shape in the mosaic represents all of us. and at the center of the box is a cross. And Dianthe, through your music, you have brought each one of us closer to Christ and that cross. There is a beautiful song by Ray Boltz called Thank You. In that song, he penned these words: "Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed." And Dianthe, I want to say to you this morning, thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed.
Amen and amen. You may be seated. Dianthe has shown up every Sunday, and a little bit you're going to hear exactly how many services that is, but every Sunday as an offering to God, to offer her gifts of service to God. We have the opportunity to do that as well every single week. When we come and we bring our gifts and our service before God, we also offer our offerings and our tithes to God. We ask our ushers to come forward.
her husband and grandson were here, and so I was glad to have them. And I want to thank everybody who has made this day possible. I know it's been a lot of hard work. To begin with, we actually need to go back 62 years to 1956. As a high school senior, my teacher came to me and said, this is my music teacher, "My husband is graduating from ATSU this spring. I've been organist at Trinity Episcopal Church for 4 years. We are moving, and you're my replacement." I had never played the organ, never had any desire to play an organ. I don't think I'd ever touched one, let alone play for an Episcopal service. So my teacher contacted, and if you want to, I'll do the math for you. I turned 80 2 weeks ago. My teacher contacted the organist at First Christian Church to give me organ lessons. So we went to the Episcopal Church, where I had 3 organ lessons, and that's all I've ever had, is 3 organ lessons. Those good poor people who had to listen to me in those early years. I was trying to work the pedals, learn all the new Episcopal hymns, and then do a very unfamiliar thing to me called chanting. And that was hard to learn, but once I got it, I think I did okay. My saving grace was the fact that I had tap danced and played the accordion at the same time. So my feet soon learned how to get around the pedals. That organ had a 1-octave pedal board, and this organ has a 2-octave plus pedal board. So for 4 years I played on a 1-octave pedal board with my left foot, and that's what I still do here. I've never gotten the right foot to come along. I think it was no accident that this happened. I feel I was called to do this, but it took a few years to realize that. God had called me and changed the direction of my life. I played at Trinity Episcopal from 1956 to 1960, and from then on, from 60 to 68, I subbed over there and subbed over here. But during one June, I played in 1962, I played for Gene and Jenny Schneider's wedding at the Episcopal Church, and they're sitting right over there. I started subbing here when Dean Kershaw was the organist. He was a Truman student, and he was from Illinois. Well, he went home more weekends than he played, so I started subbing here and eventually ended up with the job. I actually tell the pastors that I'm breaking them in. I've played for 8 pastors, and I tell them I'm breaking them in, but it's really the other way around. When I started playing at this church, Marvin Fortel was the minister. He had a very good relationship with the international students, especially the Chinese students. And at that time, the Chinese brides wanted to have an American wedding with white dress, church, and the whole thing. They wanted the typical American wedding, and Reverend Fortel also allowed them to cook their native dishes down in the kitchen while we were getting ready for the service and during the service, and you could smell the wonderful smells wafting up from the kitchen. The first Chinese wedding I played for was supposed to start at 11 o'clock. So I usually start prelude music like 20 minutes before for a wedding, and I started playing my prelude music, and the sanctuary was empty, no one was here. Finally, about 5 minutes till 11, Fran McKinney, who was the International Club sponsor, came in and sat down, and I kept playing. 11 o'clock came, and I kept playing. Played and played and played, and finally Reverend Fortel came in, and he said, "These things don't start on time, just wait until I give you a high sign, and then we'll go on with the wedding." So there were lots of those weddings that happened here during that time, and I learned not to get in a hurry. I started playing for funerals at local funeral homes in 1965. There are lots and lots of funeral stories I could tell you, but I don't think it would be proper for this venue. Some years I played for about 100 funerals a year. Wow. In 1970, Reverend Richard Detweiler came to be pastor at First United Methodist Church. During this time, our church had no air conditioning. And so it was about his 3rd Sunday here, and at the 8:15 service, it was about 110 degrees in this corner over here. I was expecting our 2nd child. I wasn't feeling well, and so during the last hymn, I passed out on top of the organ. So I usually tell a new pastor, I won't do to you what I did to Reverend Detweiler. So they took me downstairs through the stairwell here, and at that time we had a funeral director, Kenneth Jackson, had a funeral home where Northeast Bank is right now. And at that time, I was playing for Foster Funeral Home. So when I woke up, I see Kenneth Jackson, and I think, oh my God, I died, and they've taken me to the wrong funeral home. The 8:15 service was instituted during Reverend Fortell's tenure, and that was because the church didn't have any air conditioning. It was only in the summer that we had the 8:15 service. So when Detweiler came, he said, we really need to give the congregation options for all year long. And so in 1970 or 71, we started having the early service become permanent. During those years, it was pretty sparse, maybe 50 people. And I remember a lot of times in the winter, especially going to the chapel and having the service in the chapel with the little organ. Today, early service had more than late service. When Reverend Detweiler came, our church was in dire financial straits. One day he came to my house and he said, all the staff is going to have to take a cut in their salary. He said, we're cutting everybody's salary in half. I made $15 a month, so my salary was $7.50. Reverend Detweiler really loved the hymn Amazing Grace, and 9 times out of 10 there'd be another hymn printed in the bulletin, but he would change to Amazing Grace at the last minute, so I learned to keep a marker in the hymn so that I could turn to it real fast. When John Millsaps came in 1976, he was from Mississippi, and he had a thick Southern accent, which was kind of hard to get used to. But his claim to fame was that he liked traveling music. And so if he moved from one point to another point on the altar, we had to have music in the background. During his tenure also, we added air conditioning and the red carpeting. When David Webster was minister, we still had the old Hammond organ that Russell Wheeler had purchased for this new building. The old organ burned in the old building. This building was already constructed, but the organ had not been moved over. So Russell bought the organ, and he also kept up the maintenance. Well, during Reverend Webster's time, someone thought it would be a good idea to amplify the organ through the main amplification system. Not a good idea. It sounded like a theater honky-tonk organ, and I wasn't too happy. So one day Russell comes up to me and he said, well, how's the organ doing? And I said, well, Russell, there have been a lot of innovations in organs since you bought this Hammond organ. And I said, why don't you go over to First Christian Church and listen to their new Allen digital organ? So a couple of weeks later, the phone rang, it was David Webster, and he said, I don't know what you said to Russell, but he's buying the church a new organ. I think he also left seed money for another one, so that's good. The guy that repairs our organ comes from Kansas City, and he said that there's nothing that we can't really repair on this organ, so that's good. This organ was installed on Thursday before Easter Sunday, which did not give me a whole lot of time to figure out what was going on. I liken it to having been driving a Volkswagen and then go to a semi-truck. So on Easter morning, I was playing and I hit something I shouldn't have hit, and everything just went off. And so we had to be a little patient until I figured out how to turn it back on. When Jim Robertson came, he added 4 Advent services before Christmas and 6 Lenten services before Easter. And Pastor Richard continued with some of these during his tenure. Pastor Scott came to First Methodist last year, and I'm sure he wondered what kind of organist he was getting, as I was in Wyoming riding horses at a dude ranch. He and Jennifer have added lots of new hymns, and I always tell him we don't play any hymn except number 499. So he has an outstanding voice that helps with leading the hymns. His sermons are straight out of the Bible, so are applicable to everyday life. I also appreciate the fact that we start on time and end before the Baptists get to the restaurants. Some weddings I've played for, and I'm sure I'll miss some that are in this congregation, are Marvin and Laura Mann, Snowy Day, Diane and Teresa Pollyi, Bob and Debbie Nookder, Marla and Steve Gramling, Ashley and Trent Barnes, Kate and Corey Egan, Rachel and Chris McCrae, Miracle and Scott Proctor, And Joyce and Ken Lundstrom were here at early service, and I played for their wedding at the Pure Air Baptist Church. Also, Janice and Ernie Loft, Karen and Jerry Mayhew, Jeff and Julie Smith, and Mike and Lori Waddle, and I'm sure I've missed quite a few that are still here. Since 1956, I've played for 2 church services at Trinity Episcopal Church for 4 years, 2 services here each Sunday for 50 years. Now, I have had some Sundays off. Some years I've also played for 6 Lenten services, 4 Advent services, Ash Wednesday, Maundy, Thursday, 2 to 3 Christmas Eve services, and most Saturday mornings will find me here practicing myself as well as vocalists or musicians for the next service. I used to play for choir rehearsal, but my aging hands I've had to give that up. With funerals, weddings, rehearsals, and church services over the last 62 years, I figure I've played for around 10 to 11,000 services. I hope during the years that I've given some comfort to those who grieve, joy to those getting married, and a feeling of worship during church services. It's been a good run. Now I'm going to finish with playing 3 of my favorite pieces, which I'm sure you've heard too many times. Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. And then a Christmas favorite is called Babe of Bethlehem. And the last one is Amazing Grace in memory of Reverend Emma.